I never went to Korea.
Oh, Seoul. Ballet Seoul. Not ballet. Seoul as in the country. Wow.
You can shout. Got some things you really want to talk about. Please in time.
Die Bundesweiten Artist Labs sind eine Maßnahme des Fonds Darstellende Künste, finanziert aus den Mitteln der Beauftragten der Bundesregierung für Kultur und Medien im Rahmen der NEUSTART Kultur.
All right. Welcome to Tanz. Work. I'm so honored and privileged to have you here today. I would love to introduce you a little bit. This is Shevelle Dynott. Dynott?
Yep.
Okay. 1994 to 2005, you visited many different okay, nope, let's cut all that. 1994 to 2005, you were at Royal Ballet Chance to Dance, Royal Ballet School Junior Associates, Royal Ballet School White Lodge, Royal Ballet Upper School, and you were the first person from the Chance to Dance Royal Ballet to enter the Royal Ballet School. Correct. Okay, got that correct. 2004, you won the bronze medal at the Adelaine Genet Awards. 2005, you joined English National Ballet, where you stayed 15 years, and you were a member of the Dancer Committee 2014 to 2018. While with English National Ballet, you had a guest appearance with Ballet Black and Ballet Soul, and you are the OG from Akram Khan's Giselle. Yeah. You also teach or taught at the Lion King in London, at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, at Balletto Scuola di Danza Summer School, Italy. Since 2001, you visited the Identity School of Acting. You already have had acting appearances, and one can find you in Bridgerton Season 2. 2002, you were awarded with the Future Leader Award from the Black Cultural Archives, and you have been appointed patron at the All England Dance.
Correct.
Work. That is such a beautiful CV, and I'm really happy we get to talk a little bit and get to know a little bit more.
I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. You can really get into that mic if you want.
Oh, really? Sorry.
Yes.
Here we go.
Yes. Let's hear that nice deep voice. Oof.
Here we go.
Now you are working in the direction of acting and more freelance.
Yes.
So can you take us a little bit about how it has been for you transitioning from institution to a sort of solo career?
It's been very interesting, very eye-opening. Being in an institution from 1997 all the way to 2005. Really blinkers you, especially in ballet. It's a very rigorous art form and takes a lot out of you. Starting at 7 to stop at 34, as in intense work. Mm-hmm. It did take a lot of belief, mm-hmm. But also there was a great deal of liberation. I did quite a lot of self-work for the first couple of years. I left English National Ballet during the pandemic, so the world was a little bit weird then.
Yeah, I since we're at that pandemic point, what a lot of things that we've discussed in previous podcasts is the BLM movement. in correlation to Corona, having time for yourself, reflecting. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. This Corona, this.
Well, being in the profession that I was in, I was blinkered on a lot of things. So I did a lot of YouTubing on certain situations. And of course, when George Floyd was murdered, I believe that the world sort of decided to listen. I believe that happened because everyone was stuck at home and was on their phones, and it was everywhere. And I do think that that was a time when many organizations decided to pay attention. Better late than never. But I do think that that was a start of a change that many people will see and feel. It was very hard on some of the videos that I was watching, going way back to the slave trade and all these things that I did know about. I wasn't that naive, but to really look at it and try and understand it during that time was, very triggering. And to know that I'd been in a career that at the time and still now, dancers of color weren't really seen as much, or weren't really shown to be in a time where that was going on. It was very, very bizarre to feel that I did a whole career not knowing the extent of how it was, because I was so focused on what I was doing. And also, as I said, to be in a profession that wasn't really, I won't say for us, because we should definitely be there. That was to look at videos of Arthur Mitchell, what he went through with Dance Theatre of Harlem, or when he was with New York City Ballet, to really delve into those stories more was very eye-opening and very, sometimes quite sad to feel that he would have done that all on his own. And in some cases, I felt like I was doing things on my own. And I really wanted to make sure when I did start teaching that I made sure any child of color that was in the room, they knew they had someone to look up to. And also, if there were more than one in the room, to make sure that they had a nice rapport with one another. Because later on it could get a little bit hard.
Did this reflection time, did that influence your freelance decision, or did your time guesting at both of these companies and the BLM movement inspire your freelance?
To a certain degree. I was always someone that wanted to dance in my country. I wanted to dance in the UK. For the reason that I said, there weren't many dancers of color in the major companies. So I really, really wanted to be that visual representation for anyone that went to the ballet by chance, saw someone that looked like them. So Yeah, it was dancing with Ballet Black. That was nice. It was so nice to be around dancers that all looked like me. It was something that I'd never felt, and I remember actually when I went back to the company, there was a sort of change within me. I used to always stay at the back, never really wanted to be seen. And yeah, when I came back, I was like at the front, and I was like, oh, I'm going to stay here. And I sort of stayed there for the rest of my career, which was actually, it was a really weird transition from like going, being there, being at the back, going to Ballet Black and doing a lead role, a principal role, and then thinking, okay, then when I go back, I want to keep this, what I'm feeling, and bring it back into an institution that I never felt that I could do that.
So you were empowered.
Yeah.
You were driven.
Yeah, there was a type of empowerment there for sure. And yeah, there was a little bit more confidence. Of course, you're still in your surroundings and the political ways of how ballet was and still is to a certain degree. It made me feel a little bit different.
Well, now with this new different feeling and taking off your blinders and entering the free world, the freelance world, what are some things that you have noticed or that really impact you?
One of the major things that I was happy about was when the BCA gave me my award for a future leader within my field. That was something that really struck a chord, because the Black community didn't really know much about ballet. I don't think they do still. And to get a recognition from my community really gave me a sense of belonging in a way. And it might sound a little bit weird because, we all stick together, but they understood what I went through. Because throughout my whole time in the career, I didn't feel like they did understand. So to have received something like that once I'd semi-retired was really, heartwarming. And it made me think about, maybe I could be a leader in my field. I'd never really thought about that. It wasn't something that was on my mind. I thought, actually, why would I be a leader of a field that is predominantly white? So it has given me a inclination that could be something. I believe there is still some more things I need to sort of decipher and understand a little bit more, even though it might not be a full understanding of it. It could be something that I could entertain when...
Well, I mean, it seems like it happened very organically, and, if the shoe fits.
Well, I mean, to a certain degree, but then also this all happened after...
You left the company.
After I left the company and during the BLM movement. So it's now hoping that this movement is going to stay.
Yeah.
This
it's
movement,
not a trend.
Yeah, this movement has happened before.
Yeah.
I think a week ago, Martin Luther King did his speech about 60 years ago. I mean, that was a movement which, I'm sure if he was around now, he would have definitely seen a change. Maybe annoyed how slow it has been, but he would have definitely seen a change.
Yeah.
With the world going so fast at the moment. I'm not sure if that's because I'm getting older and things get faster, or just with technology and knowledge and social media and everything that it's at everyone's fingertips now. So everyone can delve into something that is a little bit uncomfortable if they want to.
Speaking of technology and accessible knowledge, you're also part of the Black British Ballet Project, if I researched correctly, which aims to document history and experiences. What kind of role do you have in this project, and what makes this project so important to you?
This project was literally a ballet encyclopedia for me. As I went through the school, I didn't know that there were as many black dancers before me. And this organization is archiving dancers from, I think, the 1940s or the 1930s, all the way up to, I think I'm one of the last dancers because they stop at my generation. And it's been so heartwarming to know that there were dancers before me there, and I've been treading in their footsteps without even realizing those footsteps were put there. So yeah, this organization's fantastic. It's quite new. I am just one of the dancers that they have archived, and they're putting on a show very soon. So I'm sure I'm gonna be in. I don't think I'll be actually dancing in the show, but I'll be there supporting them while they choose their dancers. And yeah, this is something I think is incredible for any dancer now that is coming through any of the institutions to have a little bit of a history class, because again, I never had that, and I feel like this project organization is great for the youngsters to realize that things have changed and they are furthering the change.
You mentioned before, also off camera, off podcast, that you're teaching a lot more and giving back to the community and bringing this change into different areas of England and even internationally, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah. In 2002, yes, I was invited to the Seychelles to work with a group of boys that have never danced before. It was just after the pandemic. It was meant to be the year before, but of course the world was turned on its head and it got postponed till 2022. It was a fantastic project. It warmed my heart on so many different levels. It was the first time I had to, devise a schedule, a fee, all of those things that I've never had to do. So I felt like I was thrown in the deep end. Imposter syndrome was at full max. I thought I was doing everything wrong, but nothing's wrong, right? Yeah. You just carry on going, and I gave them my plan, what I wanted to do, and in 2022 it was amazing. I did a little segment from the Nutcracker. We did the battle scene, and for the actual battle over in the Seychelles, they really like b-boy dancing. So the actual battle of the Nutcracker and the Rat King was a b-boy battle, which was amazing. And I told them, I was like, you have to use some influences from like ballet.
I love that.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. And I was fortunate to have the British High Commission come and watch.
Oh.
And they really enjoyed it. And this year, 2023, I was invited back, and the British High Commission paid for everything. So I did excerpt of Alice in Wonderland.
Oh.
And I'm not sure the exact date, but there's a dance style over in the Seychelles, which had recently been recognized by UNESCO, called Mutia. And I incorporated that dance this time. So instead of the Queen of Hearts, it was the Queen of Mutia.
Oh, wow. Okay, I
And
like this.
yeah, no, that was, and I choreographed it. I mean, I was only over there for 10 days, and I only had 5 days with the dancers.
Oh.
So yeah, it was pretty testing. And the first time was 16 dancers. The second time it was 38 dancers. So there was like a big jump in the amount of kids I had to work with.
More kids and less time.
But again, that was successful.
Yeah.
And this time, the British High Commissioner came again and brought his family. And I was invited to go back again next year.
Okay, so now it's going to be like an annual thing.
Well, I hope
pretty
so,
much.
because it's an absolutely beautiful place to visit. And the children over there are so respectful, responsive, and just loved it to the point where I was like, oh wow, I didn't know that this was going to happen over here. So yeah, that's been incredible, and I'm sort of working now on a business plan to try and get funding to do this in more places.
Internationally or
Internationally.
Like mainly? Okay.
With, of course, some affiliations with some of the dance organisations I work with in the UK. So All England Dance, hopefully the Chance to Dance project, and fingers crossed maybe the RAD.
You're pretty much like implementing, not implementing, but like taking from the Chance to Dance program, and you're like kind of making it on your own way in your own terms, if I'm understanding this correctly.
A little bit, yeah.
And how, like, what is your aim of sharing ballet, sharing dance, like, or let me go the other way. What did it bring you?
This is another, it's an interesting question, because I believe as a ballet dancer or a dancer on a whole, you are just doing the one thing all your life, and you don't realize the transferable skills that you're getting. When I took the leap of faith and left English National Ballet, I didn't realize how many transferable skills I had until I was sitting there writing a business plan for the Seychelles and throwing myself in so many different jobs, avenues, because you've got to make money.
Yeah.
And going in there with imposter syndrome on max and coming out of there going, wow, I just did that. And if I could teach or pass on those skills, which I didn't realize there were skills until I left an organization, I just feel like that is so good to make a child realize all these type of things, even though they might not realize it then. When they get older, they know how to work as a team, respect themselves, make good friendships, learn how to communicate, learn how to feel an emotion through music and allow that to be. I just feel like that's important for every child to be able to feel that at some point, and then maybe when they get older, they're like, oh, I felt this when I was
Yeah,
a kid.
It sounds like you're teaching them how to navigate their feelings and how to be vulnerable.
100%. I think as a dancer, it's so second nature that you don't realize how vulnerable you are. You go on stage every day literally wearing nothing. Well, you're wearing something. You're wearing something. But you're putting yourself out there on these big stages with 2, and in some cases 13,000 people watching you.
Yeah.
And it's so second nature because you've done it for so long that you don't actually realize that vulnerability. When you speak to, maybe audience members afterwards, they're like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. And you don't even think about that. And that's probably one of the most vulnerable positions one can do that as well. I mean, you are with other people. You are with 67 other people maybe.
So it's just a few.
But just a few. But for an audience of from 2 to 13,000 people just watching those dancers, that's the ratio is pretty big.
That brings me to my next keyword, audience, slash representation.
Yeah.
How does it feel because you've danced on many different stages as well. Like, does it make a difference to you when there is an audience of Black and people of color than, let's say, the Royal Opera House, or do you feel something on stage?
I think when I dance with Ballet Black, and when I've gone to watch their shows, the audiences were, it was crazy. It was lively. But I also got that with English National Ballet occasionally. When we performed Akram Khan's Giselle, I'd never heard the audiences react like that. And I believe it was the piece. If a piece has got beat and people moving like a different way, I believe the audience sort of adapt to that. They can't really sit there and be like, when the music has just been like going at it and the dancers are like on it with so much emotion. The audiences, I think, do play a big role in many parts of the organization, whether they say it or not. But I do think it's changing. The demographics of the audiences are changing. I remember when I used to watch shows, there was a certain demographic watching, and now there are younger people. Definitely people of color are going to watch the shows a little bit more. Again, the ratio is not as big, but there's definitely a change. And I went to a show recently at the Royal Opera House, and before it would be like me and maybe 3 or 4 other people of color in the auditorium, and now there was a good 10 to 15, which again sounds small, but there is definitely a change there. And I believe if you see a show where you're represented, you're more inclined to go and see. I went to watch Crystal Pite's Flight Pattern with the Royal Ballet. It was only a 1 actor, and she extended it, and it was incredible. The lead dancer was a Black male. Then they had like a younger version of him who was a little Black child from the junior associates who had that little afro. Then they had an older Black lady playing like an older character, and I think the lead, I'm not sure if it was violin, but the lead musician was Black. And I just sat there and I just couldn't believe it. I think tears came to my eyes because I was like, I've never had some really good seats as well. Thank you, whoever gave them to me. To be that close at the Royal Opera House, seeing that, knowing that I danced on that stage the first time I won't say danced, I mean walked on when I was a kid, in 1995, to performing there a few times whilst being at school. I don't think I'd ever witnessed anything like that. And that was, for me, that was a big change. I think I actually went to the director and said something, because I believe if you see something, then you should say something. That can only give the organization an inclination to what people of color would feel if they all came to see something like that.
Thank you. So in every series, I ask the previous podcast to ask a question to the next podcast. So there was a question for you, which was how easy or intense is it to work with so many people? This is going to your English National Ballet days, and to be able to be recognized.
I believe that when I was going through my schooling, I had a mechanism to being funny, being a little bit loud sometimes. And I think that was a bit of insecurity, some subconscious insecurity. I carried that along with me throughout my whole career. When I was in the studio, I think most of my colleagues and ex-colleagues would know I would like to keep the room a little bit lively or a little bit upbeat, because as we know, the institution can be a little bit. So I feel like a little bit of humor and trying to interact with everyone was something that I had to do, which was something that I did on a level at school as a bit of insecurity. But I feel like that sort of helped me be able to interact with everyone. Whether they liked it or not is another story. But I believe they did. I believe they did.
Okay.
So yeah, did I answer the question?
I mean, it sounds like it. So like your way to be recognized was
Just to make sure that, networking and make sure that I knew that I was in the room. Yeah, basically. Yeah, made sure, even though it was very evident visually.
But you also said that this was like a coping mechanism for what exactly?
I think being at the Royal Ballet School as the only black child, especially when I went there, I mean, in a school of 140 at the time, I was the only one.
Aye.
And I believe that there was as much as I didn't really have much racism. I mean, I think there was a few little trigger things that I sort of deciphered throughout my time there. But there was nothing really, cutthroat.
Yeah, I mean, you were also in that position of like
We're
the
accepting.
gratitude.
Yeah. So I believe that my insecurities of I am the only one here,
that I better be nice.
Well, I have to be overboard sometimes, and I did have points where my mood would be like high and low and high and low, and I feel like that was because I couldn't always be happy. There were some things that I was feeling, but couldn't express it to anyone that was around me because they wouldn't even understand. Even though I know that they would listen, there's listening and there's understanding, right? And I could explain it until I was blue in the face, as they say, but they would never really understand it. And my parents and my family, I would speak to them, and they did to a certain degree, but also they didn't.
Different worlds.
Yeah, it was a completely different world. And they gave me the most support and everything. Like, I believe I was very, very grounded. I come from a Caribbean background. So, you know, when I'd go home, it was like patois, speaking Jamaican all the time, to coming back to school being, there's a spoon in my mouth. So yeah, it was,
Code switching.
yeah, I did a lot of that. Like, I would go back to Brixton and, you know, be like, "Oh, can I have some water, please?" And people are like, "Water? It's water." And then I'd go back to school and I'd be like, "Oh, can I have some water, please?" And they're like, "Water? It's water." So yeah, it's just little things like that.
That
Not
sounds
everyone
very
did that.
exhausting,
But
especially
yeah,
as
no,
a
it
young
was.
child.
Exactly. So I believe that, you know, laughing and joking about was like a mechanism to like cope with dealing with, oh my God, can't I just speak?
Now, with like the knowledge and the experiences that you have been through, what advice would you give to a person who is in that situation? Because there are still lots of schools and institutions with 1 or 2 POC Black people.
I would say embrace it. Especially if you've got a very strong family network. Embrace it, because it means that the spectrum that you can navigate through is so much more than someone who only sees one. That's one thing that I am so happy about. I feel like I can put myself in many social situations and know how to navigate that situation and not make it affect me as much, because I've done it since the age of 11. So yeah, embrace it. And yeah, it might feel a little bit awkward sometimes, and you know, vice versa. When you go home, it could be a little bit awkward. You might start speaking differently. You might start walking a little bit differently. Yeah, embrace that, because when you get older, it works in your
skill.
it's a life skill. It works in your favor 100%. As I said, I can put myself in many social situations and be like, yeah, I can.
I can drink my water and I can drink my water.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So our next podcast is going to be Yolanda Morales. I would like to ask you if you have a question for her.
What are 3 things that you would like to see happen in your art form?
Would you like to answer this question for yourself as well? Because that's a nice question.
It is, isn't it? What did I say?
What are 3 things you would like to see in your art form?
One would be, I would like to see a ballet where the heroine is a person of color. The second would be more than 2 or 3 Black dancers in a company. And definitely more female, I feel. And thirdly, more collaborations with companies that have already got a multitude of dancers of color to work with institutions that probably find it hard. Because if you work with an organization that already has that, then you can learn from the outset and then hopefully implement it when they've gone.
Okay. You're just sitting over here changing the world. Changing the institutions.
Very much so. They're going to kick my ass out.
No, you've stayed very diplomatic. I was expecting a little bit more juice, a little bit more tea, but
I feel also it's crazy because I'm witnessing things that I would never have done.
Yeah.
I could never have done it, you know. I remember when I was at the Royal Ballet School, I got told that my hair was too short. I just got a short back and side. I actually thought, you know, it was a nice fade as well. I thought it actually looked kind of good. Now dancers can go on stage with their afros or dreadlocks, and I'm like, that is amazing. That change has literally happened like that. And I have to navigate that when I'm talking, because institutions will be like, well, look, we've done it, even though it's literally been 2 or 3
minutes
years
ago.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, you sort of have to
Acknowledge
the change, however slow it is. But as I said, with technology and the way how the next generation are, they're very forthright in some ways, which I think is good in a profession like ballet. You need them, because what's the generation going to be like after them if they're like this? So the change, I think, will happen more rapidly, and people of my generation will maybe start going into positions of leadership where you have to go with it, because it would have been going on for about 10 or 15 years.
Yeah. Is there, I didn't check the English National Ballet at the moment. Is there a Black or person of color in a leader position?
There is two first soloists. And I think quarter ballet as well. So I think there's 3.
Okay. Of dancers of 67, you said?
Yes. Okay. But yeah, I believe that they could go to the top of the rank. I believe it should happen
if they let them. Well, I don't want to force you to say anything unspoken, unthink of, on something that might bite you in the ass. But I think you've given us a really nice insight of how you're trying to change these structures and give them the possibility to also change. So thank you very much for that.
And I believe it's education. I mean, I never had anyone. When I first started ballet, my teachers were all people of color. When I went into the institution, that changed a lot. So I think that it's very important to have representation, big time. I always say, when Black Panther came out, I was scrolling through Instagram, and to see the amount of little black boys that believed that they could be a superhero because there was a superhero that was black, just showed 100% that representation really does 100% move mountains. So yeah, I believe education for the young ones is paramount to build resilience.
Yeah. And it's really nice that you're also focusing on the younger generation. You're like getting it from the roots.
Yeah, 100%. Because you fall for the art form at that age. And when you fall for something, then that's all you're thinking about. You're not thinking about any of the negative connotations that might come with it, because you've already given your soul to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much for having this conversation.
As I said, thank you so much for having me. I believe that this is a very important collective to have. You need to have the conversations with the people involved first before you can go into something, because everything needs to sound really good. And you need to have a community to bounce off. And yes, I thank you for starting this up with a few of your other friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms. And today you were listening to Zen
Tanz.
Tanz.
Oh, you got me.
I just had to throw it out.
Thank you for listening, and tune into our next episode of
Please and time.
For more information, visit our social media pages, representants_lab. The content on this podcast has been verified to the best of our abilities. We cannot guarantee that there are no mistakes or errors. We sadly acknowledge that at the moment we have no representation of a person with disabilities. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as legal or medical advice.